Hi, I'm Anton Woltek. I'm a sound designer at Guerrilla Games, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of the open sound control features that we have implemented in the CoreText Editor, one of the main tools that we have over at Guerrilla. The lower level service, the open sound control service, was developed by the ATF guys, and it's part of the ATF framework. And there's a specialized features to it that we use in the CoreText Editor, but it should be available to to the ATF framework users pretty soon, I think. We've been wanting this for quite a while, to have ways to control the mix of a game and several other sound properties with touch interfaces and other controllers that you tend to use with faders, etc. for sounds. So I'm going to show you some of these features and how they might be of use to you as well. So Open Sound Control is an open protocol developed a couple years ago as a successor to MIDI, which was a standard from the 80s. And Open Sound Control is a network protocol, and it has a hierarchical layout. So if you want to find out more, I'll have some links to what it is exactly. If you go to the OSC info tab inside the CoreText Editor, you can see a lot of properties that are exposed. Here's the property name for CoreText Editor and the resource, and this is the OSC address, and this is what you send and receive from the CoreText Editor and any other application that uses it. In this instance, I'll be using Line Lemur on the iPad as the interface, so the settings get set from the iPad app, in this case, on the sound mix resource, and that then gets transmitted to the game. So anybody currently at Guerrilla that wants to use it will have to find stuff that already works with GameLink before we can actually use it in real time with the game, which is quite a lot of things already. So yeah, just gonna show it to you now. If I move this fader, we'll start to hear an ambient come up in the game. So I can multi-touch things. So if I, for example, want to hear more world sounds, currently no world sounds in this game, but I can turn it down. As you can see on the iPad app here, it's a bit small on the screen, but the name of the actual group is there instead of the nondescript name that is exposed from the resource. Now, that's just one of the side benefits from this, because we can actually make the interface our own. We can design this ourselves, and we can really adjust it to whatever suits our needs. So one of the things we did was create a preset system that only exists inside the CoreText, inside the Lemur app. So if I increase the ambient and, for example, decrease the player gun, save that to preset, and see how that sounds. Now I want to turn down the ambient and increase the gun a bit more. Save that to preset B. Now I can compare the two. As you can see, all the faders are adjusted. I can also do relative changes. So suppose I want to decrease every fader in relation to each other with 1 dB. I just press this and the whole mix goes down. You can see that as well over here. All the values are adjusted relative to another. Of course, this is multi-touch, so I can adjust any of these values individually with 10 fingers, and there you go. Set it to wherever you want. So I can, for example, solo the player weapon. So we only hear that. Only the player weapon. And if I then solo it, it comes back. So in this case, I'm just gonna mute the ambient for a second. So right there. So I've muted the ambient there. Now I'm going to play with another setting. It's another cool feature of the CoreText Editor GameLink, so that we can see what kind of reverb presets are there. Now, as soon as I loaded the reverb preset, you noticed that the interface on the Lemur changed as well. This is done by sending a special OSC message that tells the Lemur app to change its interface to the relevant one. So it's great because we instantly get the correct interface for this preset, and we cannot accidentally adjust something in another resource. Of course, it only works for a resource you've got selected. So if we listen to this now, and if we then want to have, for example, a bit more decay, there we go, a bit more high frequency. I'm going to save that. And now I want to have a bit more early reflections, and I want to decrease the high frequencies. So there, I save that to preset B. And now I go back to A. So this is B. So if I want to make it a bit more dramatic. Get the early reflections. Compare it back to A. Of course, we also built some other neat tricks in this, like for example, adjusting things randomly. So suppose I take the early reflections, slap back a bit and randomize that. Then we can play around. Sounds different every time. Pretty cool. Take it out completely. Or go back to what we had in A. If I press this, everything gets randomized. If I press it again, nothing gets randomized. So, yeah, that was the reverb preset. For example, you can also adjust the parameters of a sound. For instance, this projector sound, you can actually make it audible. This is an HDR sound, but suppose I wanted to not make it HDR sound, I would turn it off, and it also the interface related to HDR disappear, which means that we only get to see the interface that is relevant and that actually does something, which is one of the neat features of this. We can make it so that it shows only the things that actually have an effect. If we go to the sound system settings, which is a general overview of a lot of global sound settings, we have another example of this showing the relevant interface. So you have here a mastering EQ. By the way, this has a ton of features in it because it's a lot of settings, and you really need different interfaces and some notes about that this only affects dialogue, for example, which we cannot really place anywhere in a sensible way in the CoreText Editor. So, for example, I have this mastering EQ, and for this, let me turn back on the ambient. Let's go undo that. Go back to the sound system settings. Go there. Now the EQ, turn that on, suddenly it sounds completely different. We only have the low end now. So if I go now and adjust it so that it only has the high frequency, if I then show you how that looks like, what it looks like over here, you can see how much settings that's changing. Sounds very thin now. So turn it off. We don't have the GUI anymore. We cannot adjust accidentally the EQ faders, which you could still mess around with here, pretend something's working. So that's a nice feature, I think. Now, if we go, to the mix again. Of course, it works both ways, by the way. If you turn down the ambient here, it also goes down on the interface without you touching it. So suppose I made a new mix in this here and then selected that. As you can see here on the top, it shows you the name of this resource and also its settings. So if I now go back to the next one, it adjusts to what the standard test mix was and its settings. So it sends out all the information that you need. Now, if we go to the something non-sound, in this case we have the depth of field settings. So this is pretty neat. If we turn up the amount of fuzz here on the right, you can see that the game turns very fuzzy. If I then adjust the far distance, this goes away or gets closer. This is the depth of field filter that we have in the game. So it's not only for sound things, it's definitely also for visual things. So if I A, B, that, for example, you get two different depth of field settings that you can instantly compare with one another without having to relink resources or restart the game. So here we have the a curve for color correction. So this is also multi-touch. And with this, let me go down a bit with the thing. You see it's green. Now this is a RGB on the X, and it's the saturation on the Y. So if I go and take this and adjust these values, you can see that the saturation goes down. We have a black and white game. Save that to A. If I then turn up all these things here, adjust it. So save it to B. Now we can A/B the different curves. This is pretty neat if you're doing color correction, because now you don't need to reload any of these resources. So if I select another resource, you then get the curve for that resource. So here's another example. I select this one and put it in A and this one in B, and now we have this curve selected. Press A on it, we are sending all the values for that curve. Game changes color, and we select B, game changes color. This is a way to, without relinking, trying out different settings that you find all over the place. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to show you today, and if you've got any ideas for what we could do with this, or what you could do with your tool with it, just let us know and we can hopefully do something with it.